Hi everybody, my name is Stevie B. I'm recovering alcoholic.
Stevie!
Former member of the West Side Men's Group. Current member of the Golden Text Group. And it's still a fine group. And my mom's on here tonight. Hi Mom. Love you so much. A lot of emotions going on for me right now. The nurse that was there when I was overdosing, and my parents they dropped me off in the front of the Fort Lauderdale hospital, and my mom and dad I had just been in the home group with Wendy. Congratulations, Wendy. And I was under the illusion that I could drink as long as I didn't do drugs. And my parents brought me to the Fort Lauderdale hospital. And I had tunnel vision. I could only think about what my immediate needs were in terms of what I wanted to fill myself with in that moment. And that moment was chewing tobacco and a Yoo-hoo drink that my dad gave me money to go next door to the 7-Eleven. And while I was in the 7-Eleven on Las Olas Boulevard, and I was holding on to like one of the racks, a wave came over me that I just destroyed my life. I had just given away 7 years. I knew I had a pocket of Xanax. It was Columbus Day. October 11th. And I was holding on to one of the racks and I was crying. And the hand of Alcoholics Anonymous, this young kid that knew me from the rooms, happened to be in the 7-Eleven. And he put his hand on my shoulder and he said, "Stevie B, you'll get back." And I said, "No, I'm never going to be able to get back." And I thought about throwing myself in front of traffic on the Las Olas because I couldn't picture how I would get back because I was so far gone. And my parents were out there and my wife was out there and the nurse came in that's standing back there right now. And that young man in the green shirt, Adam, had compassion on me, and I had just taken 6 of the Xanax bars on the way into the intake with him, and rightfully so, he should have not allowed me in a detox hospital when I was completely passed out on that man's table. Paul says that recovery, and I'm sure he's heard it from someone else, or he came up, it doesn't matter. The entire program is borrowed. He'll say, "You got that from somebody else." Yes. My goal was not to be in AA. So people are like, "You stole that from somebody." Yes. It wasn't like I was studying in school. "Oh, let me write this down because someday I'm going to be in AA. That's a great goal of mine." No, I arrived here by that gentleman there, Adam, because of his compassion, let me into the Fort Lauderdale Hospital, and I didn't die. And on October 11th of 2001, I didn't die. But Fred Cohen did, may God rest his soul, and this one did, may God rest his soul, and this one did. The people that died before us tonight paid a price so that we don't have to. And do I take this thing called sobriety, this sacred place of Alcoholics Anonymous, seriously? You betcha. Did I sign up to take it seriously when I was 21 years old? Of course not. It was a stopping ground for me on the way to whatever. But it was never a goal. A relationship with God was not a goal. I didn't think I just thought I was grandfathered in being half Jewish and half Italian. I didn't even think God was even an issue. People say, do you know God? I'm like, yeah, of course. I'm Jewish. You know, yeah, of course, I'm Catholic. Which basically meant nothing. I knew nothing about God. I knew nothing about staying sober. I knew nothing about living right. I knew nothing about all the things that I learned over the last 35 years in Alcoholics Anonymous. A lot of them from that woman over there. And from my dad, may God rest his soul, and Richard Spike was the first person that I ever wanted to follow in Alcoholics Anonymous, and he happens to be here tonight. And I saw him. I saw on a Tuesday night, Jimmy was selling raffle tickets 30-something years ago, and Paulie was speaking, and it was the greatest show in town. And I saw this guy, Richard Spike, that happens to be here with his beautiful wife tonight, and he was running around the room, and he had like loafers and no socks. I had never seen loafers and no socks. And I couldn't keep my eyes off him. And as I was making my way up after the talk to meet this legend of a God, may God rest his soul, Paul Efron, Spikey, interceded me in the line. He was kind of like the filterer. And he says, come over here, kid. And he had a 3-year gold bar medallion. Because he was from Narcotics Anonymous too. He was a double dipper. So he had the bling of Narcotics Anonymous, but he was posing in AA. And he had these 3 bars, Mom. Remember I tell you this story? He's got these 3 gold bars. And he goes, listen, kid. This could be yours someday. And did I know I wanted this? No, I didn't know I wanted this. But stick around, and all of a sudden, the Spikes and the John Gintas and it all just comes into place, right, Aspen? The kid that you just saw here, that Swedish god that just picked up the 3-year medallion, that Nordic prince that you just saw, showed up at my home group drunk on the street, slurring his words and saying all he wanted to do was get effed up, and he was walking to getting effed up. You remember, Noah? There was no way that kid could get 3 years. There's no way that kid could get 3 years. But God. You could and would if you were soft. And all the things that you think are impossible are impossible. They are impossible on your own strength. And you're either going to submit and do it their way, or you're going to do it your way, and you're going to fail. And your amount of years of sobriety does not qualify you for not failing, because Richard texted me this week that someone with 40 plus years went out. And Fred Cohen with 18 years went out. Your length of time of sobriety does not keep you from failing if you don't do the spiritual work today. One of our heroes is like this guy, John G. He's here tonight. And we used to make fun because he's so knowledgeable. When we had a meeting, we would call it As John Sees It. He knew everything. He knew everything about the big book, everything about the 12 and 12, everything about everything. And one day in our home group, he was high and he fell over in his chair and landed on his head in the home group. We found out there are no people that are immune from failing, because all of us are born out of failing. We're born from sin. We're born from being separated from God. Ego, edging God out, is our great equalizer. And you have the opportunity not to be in another funeral or be in your own funeral if you take this seriously. Step 6 and 7, and it doesn't matter to me what step we're on today. We're going to get to something. Step 6 and 7 said that this is the step that separates the men from the boys, because anyone that is not ready to have God remove these defects of character will once again become the object of the defect of character. Pride, anger, greed, gluttony, envy, lust, and sloth. These are the main categories of the sins, of the great sins. And then there's millions of subcategories underneath. And we happen to be in an era where we're incredibly blessed. I said it last week. I mean, Pat's doing the steps Thursday at Alcoholics and God, and Peter's up on Thursday up in Boca, and we got Jared on Sunday. We're here today. We got people teaching us and sharing the steps with us all the time. But unless you're willing to do the work, it won't matter. The greatest teachers of the big book are only great teachers if they're doing the work in the day. And the reason that this is the step that separates the men from the boys and the women from the girls is because not everybody is willing to do what Wendy was able to do over the last 30-something years, 33 years, I think it's been 33 years, which is asking. The process of recovery is not what you can add. The process of recovery is what you can give. God, I cannot remove this defective character. It's never going to go away. It's always going to be here. That's right. It will be. But being entirely ready to have God remove this defective character, whatever it is, that's the process of handing it over and realizing through step 7 that humbly asked him to remove this shortcoming is that I humbly need to bow before the Creator in the sacred place of Alcoholics Anonymous and hand him, the Creator, as you understand him, the defective character that's going to kill me in the day. And the one that I had yesterday is not the one that I have today. Yesterday was anger, today was lust. Now, did I stay in lust? No. Did I bathe in lust? No. But I saw it coming. If you go to the gym, it's a built-in lust thing. They've designed the gym for you to fail. It's a defective character exercise whole thing. The whole thing was designed by Satan. And they have a machine right in the front where it spreads your legs right in the front. They don't put it in the back. In every gym, it's right there in the front. Just spread your legs. And as I was walking in today, Hal knows, when I was walking in today, I saw there was an attractive person on that machine. And that's the way to the water fountain.
You were thirsty.
And
thirsty.
I'm not saying that I would have, been there at that exact moment. So what I did was walk to the other side. You see, step 6 and 7 is the cease and desist step. God is not going to reach down from heaven and remove lust as I'm slowly walking by the spread leg machine. I have to be willing to meet him exactly where he wants me to meet him, which is, God, I can't, you can, I'm going to let you. And that entails me walking to the other side of the gym. That entails me not second looking. That entails me that entails me saying as many times as I need to in the gym or at the beach or wherever, God, please remove this bad thought from me. I'm so glad you're with me today. God, please remove this bad thought from me. I'm so glad you're with me today. And by the way, I don't surround myself with men that okay my lust. I surround myself with men that if I call them and say I'm suffering for lust, they say, let's pray. They say, give it to God. Spike, you'll say, open up the 12 and 12. I surround myself with people that are not okay with me being not okay. I hang out with a guy that honors his wife by not looking at other women. I hang out with other people that honor the people. The people you hang around with, the books you read, the things you watch will help shape the person that you're going to be. So my group of people, the people that I spend time on the phone, of course, there's people that I'm working with that are newer, that I'm not asking them to be at the same level as my peers. But I have a group of people where we hold ourselves higher accountable, realizing that Alcoholics Anonymous is but a spiritual kindergarten, and I don't want to hang out with kindergartners all the time, so I hang out with great people in AA. And my mom is one of them. My mom is a great person. But she's not a great person because she's inherently great, because she's not. She's from Brooklyn. My mom is a great person because she's constantly giving to God the defective character that's weighing her down on the 22nd of September. Or the 24th. She's constantly giving it to God. Constantly giving it to God. Constantly giving it to God. How you doing today, Mom? Giving it to God. How you doing yesterday? Giving it to God. How are you going to do tomorrow? Giving it to God. And I have these great examples. Peter M., my mom, incredible, just amazing people. Pat R. that happens to be here tonight. Nancy, Kelly. I have a whole group of people that I'm watching that are actually working this. And the reason I'm bringing these specific names up is if you don't have a plethora of names to call and it's only people that are okaying your BS, you need to get a different group of people. Not only am I entirely ready to have God remove these defects of character, my stuff is so serious that I need to treat it today. This is not something that I'm treating from 25 years ago. This is not something that I had. I don't have alcoholism. I have alcoholism. And I can't tell you how many people in this group are the godly people that I hang out with. Are they perfect? No. I hang out with Miguel. No, of course they're not perfect. Where they're constantly pushing themselves and serving and doing. And last time I spoke to Miguel was like, how do we do this meeting better? And how do we do this better? And how do we get the clients to pay attention better? And Spikey's like, what are we going to do with this? And then this whole thing gets together. And Hal says, I'll meet you at the Bible study. He's Jewish. He's coming to the Bible study. It doesn't matter what religion you are. Be in a relationship with God, not a religion with God. And your posture means everything. What does that mean, posture? It means the way that you carry yourself, the way that you take this book seriously, the way that you're doing the steps, the service that you do. There's a guy that's here tonight, Danny, that's driving all the way up from Miami every Tuesday to sit with one of my guys from JC's to read the book with him. That's what this whole thing is about. And then all of a sudden you realize, because we're selfish, that you've now given God your selfishness. See, I'm working on my selfishness. What does that even look like, you're working on your selfishness? Working on your selfishness means driving to work with a newcomer. I'm working on my pride. Working with your pride means you're helping someone that needs the help. You're getting on your knees. You're washing their feet. And so, of course, this is the step that separates the men from the boys and the women from the girls, because most people don't want to do the work. They want to talk. Yes. There's a lot of talking going on. A lot of talking. A lot of talking. How you doing? Doing a lot of talking. Now that same guy that I said fell on his head has now created himself over the last, 12 years, 10 years, and now not only has all the knowledge, but also puts it into practice today. And that's the difference between... By the way, I just want to let you know, you believe in the devil. The devil has more knowledge than any of you. That doesn't mean he loves God. He hates God. Our job in Alcoholics Anonymous is not to show everybody what we know, but to show everybody what we do. We're responsible. What's the work you're doing today? And I thank God for that man Adam in the corner there that took time that day to save my life. I may not be here if it wasn't for that guy. Did I know years later I would meet him in AA? No. When I saw him come in, my jaw hit the floor, and I said, do you know who I am? And no. I said, I was a patient of yours where you helped save my life. And he put me in the little room right next to the station to make sure I didn't die. And then years later, when he came back, he had some issues, and I'm not saying he used, because I'm not saying that I was there for him. Right, Adam? I was there for you. That's how this whole thing works. My Creator, I'm now willing that you should have all of me. What does that mean? It means, my Creator, I'm now willing that you should have all of me, because I'm humble enough to realize I can't change without you. I'm not going to change. Every self-help program I've ever been in my life, I failed. Every one. I had an anger problem. My family put me in karate. That didn't work. I had a lust problem, so I started dating everyone in the... That didn't work. All these self-help situations that, like I had an anger problem, and my mom put me in Catholic camp, which was supposed to make me nicer. But it turned out it was deaf camp. And they didn't know. It was a camp for the deaf. And I don't know how you can do this, but I offended the deaf. I got kicked out of deaf camp. I don't even sign. This is a true story. Nobody got kicked out of that camp. I did. My Creator, I am now willing that you should, and my mom's on here if you think I'm lying. I'm not lying. My Creator. That's the Creator. That's the capital C Creator. Don't get caught up in religion. Your Creator is bigger than religion. Religion is man's way to get in touch with God. God has a way to get in touch with us. That's through the 11th step. So through prayer and meditation, to have a conversation, to listen to the Creator. Don't get caught up on what you don't know. There's so much more that I don't know than I do know. It's much better for me to pour out than it is to add more philosophy to what I think the Creator of the universe is all about. Hey, Stevie, what do you think the Creator of the universe is all about? Well, let's talk to Him. Let's talk to God. I'm now willing that you should have all of me, good and bad. Take it all. And I'll tell you why it says that in the prayer, good and bad. Because we often don't know what's good and bad. The worst things in my life now, recently, have turned out to be some of the best things. And some of the things I thought were the best things are turning out to be the worst things. So I say to the Creator, Lord, take both things. And then leave me what you want at the end. I pray that you now remove from me every single defective character which stands in the way of my usefulness to you and my fellows. If you're not entirely ready to have God remove these defects, don't worry. Your defects will definitely take you out. That's a true story. Am I right, Paul? Your defects of character, which were not given to you by God, they're God-given instincts that have went astray, which means we're supposed to have sex to make babies, not to procreate all of Fort Lauderdale. When it gets crazy, we need to give it to God. If all you can do is think about sex, this is a great time for you to give that to God. If all you can do is think about money, give it to God. Because that's no way to be. It's totally disturbing. It's the reason we used to begin with. Restless, irritable, and discontent. Why? We're thinking about our own needs all the time. Then we come to AA and we see all these slogans on the wall that Wendy spoke about. I'm responsible, and think, and all about service, and easy does it, and one day at a time. And we realize it's not about us, it's about the greater good, which we would have never known. I saw Miguel one time on a plane, which was shocking. And when I saw him, that's Miguel. He's got tattoos all over the front of his face. And my son was 10. And I went up to him and he's like, Daddy, what are you doing? I go, that's my friend. He goes, that's not you. Don't lie. I go, no, that's my friend. And then we hugged, like in front of the whole plane. He was coming back. I always tell this story. He was coming back from Canada. Where was it? Where was the prison thing? New York. Where he did a documentary about prison reform that he starred in, because your test that you go through now becomes your testimony when you want to serve God. So now he's involved in prison reform. Am I saying it all right? Prison makes some of the best AAs there is. Am I right, Thomas? It's amazing. We are like the best people in AA here, because when you've been released from the prison, whether it's here or inside actually an actual jail, you love much. Anybody else here been in prison? I've been in prison. No, I'm not talking about physical prison. I'm talking about the prison of self. Thinking about self, concerned with self, me, myself, what I got going on, all my stuff going on, everything, my needs, and then I just become in a prison. And the Bible says once you've been set free, you're free indeed. And that's what the 6th and 7th step are all about. Are the 6th and 7th step important? I'm not saying the most important, but I'm saying the most important. And Pat's putting his head up and down, so I know I'm on the right page. I always check things out when Pat and Paul are in the room, like, did I say that right? So I'm 5.5 years stark raving in sobriety. And Joe, Pete, back then I was taking steroids, all full of myself, a monster. I just got arrested for picking up a prostitute in AA, fighting in AA, and completely sick. And I had two sponsors, Myron, may God rest his soul, incredible, 46 years of sobriety, locksmith of Broward County, and then I had also John Williams, Pat, because I wanted, name recognition. And I'm not doing the steps with either one of them. And I had breakfast with John Williams up in Pompano. He's like, Steve, I really think you need to go back to the steps. I'm like, nah. And I got to step 6 and 7, and in the big book, if you're not careful, you may make the misunderstanding that it's not important because it's only 2 paragraphs. You see, there's an entire chapter for step 5. We got an entire chapter for step 4. We got a ton of stuff on step 3. But somehow these recovered alcoholics, they just write like a half page. Not even, right, John? Not even. Like a quarter and a quarter. And I got to it on my own without the help of John or Myron. And I got to it and I go, this doesn't even look that important. I mean, really, my 2 defects are like alcohol and crack. And I'm 5 years sober, so everything must be fine. And then I meet Adam in the Fort Lauderdale hospital after I just overdosed, and I realized at 5.5, 6.5, 7 years that I had nothing to keep me in here. And that a blow of the wind sent me out. Ego, edging God out. My entire life, up until this moment, up until this point, ego can send me out of the program. If I do not keep that specific defective character in check by giving that to God today, it could destroy me. And I'm married to an amazing, humble person. So she's a great yin to my yang. And I really believe it's very, very important if you're an egocentric person to have people like I just love the way that Amanda and Wendy are with each other. That's like an incredible relationship. You need to have those you need to feel like your sponsor is the most perfect person. In step 7 on page 77 is we don't use this as an excuse to shy away from the subject of God. If other people don't believe in God, we still don't shy away from the subject of God. We don't have to hit them over the head with the Bible, but we certainly are not going to pretend that we have not been set free. When it says in the golden text, the Lord has been so wonderful to me, curing me of this terrible disease, that I just want to go around the world and telling people about it. We're not going to not tell people about it if, like Aspen said, we've been set free. I mean, listen, Kristen, welcome back. We love you so much. It's so incredible to have you. How are you going to stay? You're going to stay by giving it to God. You're never going to beat alcoholism. I'm never going to be able to beat alcoholism. Alcoholism wins 10 out of 10 times, but God could and would if he were so. I'm smiling to myself because to have someone that was there when I overdosed, to have Wendy there when she told me to come back inside the room when I was asking her how to wean myself off Xanax. 33 years later, we're still in this together. 33 years later, we're still in this together. 33 years with Spike, we're still in this together. So you may not have had a perfect run. I didn't have a perfect run. John didn't have a perfect run. But we're still here. And this is what God is saying to us in this step. Listen, don't worry about what happened. Let's be concerned with what's going to happen if you don't get out of the way. On our knees, humbly asking the Creator to remove these defects. And then what's going to happen immediately is you're going to know that you have to write this 8th step. Okay? Which is good news. It's good news and it's scary news. It's good news and it's scary news. Because the 8th step is the precursor to the 9th step. And all the 8th step is saying is that we made a list of all the people we've harmed. And we don't worry about the 9th step right now. We go with our sponsor. We get the 4th step out. Preferably, I burned mine, so it was a little difficult. I came from the burning school of thought on that. And so I know, John, but I was young and I thought I was the worst sinner in the world, and my sponsor was like, "All right, let's burn it." That makes it hard if you burned your 4-step to go back and get the names on the list you've harmed. But I just had to do another one in terms of that. And so I got those names. You're gonna find out the people you've harmed, and then you're gonna make a list, and you're gonna become willing to make amends to them all. Okay? Listen, everyone does it differently. Okay? There's experts in this room. I'm not one of them. There's some people that say there's a list where people that you're never going to make amends to them, and sometimes you're going to make amends to them. I didn't come from that school of thought. My sponsors, including Russell Spatz and Jerry Baird, they didn't want to hear about a special list that I had that I wasn't going to make amends to them all. So they said, "I don't even know what you're talking about. You want to drink? You have a list that says that if you want to drink, then have a special 8A step that says you're not going to do this step. But if you don't want to drink, make a list of everyone you've harmed and became willing to make amends to them." Who? All. That's the type of people I was with. They're like, "You want to get drunk? Continue to do it your way. But if you don't want to get drunk, make a list." And I started putting down all the people I've harmed. Now, did I know right around the corner that it was going to be that I was going to have to go make amends to them? It was a little bit scary. Yes. Who cares? You want to be free or you want to be drunk? You want to be free or you want to be miserable? There's people in the program that are miserable. We see them all the time. They got years and years and years of sobriety and they're miserable. And they shout stuff out at meetings. Not you, Cindy. Of course, you're so happy. I want to be free. When I walk into a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, wherever it is, in any part of the world, I'm free. Aren't you free, Dale? We're totally free. Because we're not carrying around nasty baggage. Because we're working the steps in the present. If I do the steps correctly, I don't have to do, contrary to people that were shouting stuff at me last week, I don't have to do 4 steps every other week. Because I do a lot of 10th steps, unfortunately. Which means I make mistakes in today and I make amends for those mistakes today. But in the beginning, I had this giant list of all these people that I've harmed since I was a little kid, including the kid that I held hostage for shooting me. Because for years I blamed him, for years I hated him, for years I had visions of shooting him also. And then after the 4-step, as I told you, I saw that in the 4-step there's a column, where were you wrong? And I saw in that column that I was wrong by giving the kid the gun. And it was also my gun. And it was also my yard. And I also came up with the game Shoot at Me. So it turns out I had some responsibility. If I give you a gun and say shoot at me and then I hate you for the rest of my life, it doesn't really make any sense. Nancy. It's okay.
I got it. Sorry.
No, it's fine. Well, let's see. Anything else you got going on here tonight? It's okay. We love you, Clarissa. You came in when you were 16. You're doing amazing. 8 years. She got 8 years. She came when she was 16. She can do whatever she wants in the front of the room. So let's wrap this up. We have a cake to eat tonight. Here's your choice. Here's your choice. Ready? Here's your choice. Miserable, sober. Happy, joyous, and free, sober anyway. You could just choose sober, and you could still choose miserable. You know what I'm talking about. Raise your hand if you've ever had a day where you were like sober and miserable, at least for a quarter of the day, and you said to yourself, what the hell am I doing this for? I'm sober and I'm miserable. 6 of you. And spite being honest. Every one of us have had one of those either half a days or quarter days, and we realize that sober does not equate to happy, joyous, and free, because most of us were sober the first 12, 13, 14 years, and we turned out wacko anyway. So sober is not the answer for our mental illness. God is the answer for our mental illness, and sober is going to happen anyway with a relationship with God. And you'll be able to get through anything. I just want to say my friend Noah and Miriam, They're going to have a baby this week. So I just want to congratulate them. And we're just so happy for you guys. Last thing I want to share with you is this.
Love you. Thank you.
I've been given a life beyond my wildest dreams.
Amen.
I have a baby that we were told we couldn't adopt that looks like Stevie with the red hair. That looks exactly like my mom. We have a baby that's adopted that looks exactly like my mom. I passed a level 2 screening to open up a treatment center, which is unbelievable. Which means you have to have no felonies and all that kind of stuff. So I'm not sure who did the actual paperwork. I was a person that was one of the worst degenerates that I know. And today I've been faithful, praise God, to my wife for 25 years. I'm a devoted son. Devoted. Someone told my mom the other day, she said, but your son's like 50, 70, he's like a mama's boy. And my mom said, and?
Yeah.
Like while my mom's down here for the next 6 months, she comes down in 3 weeks, and if someone asks me to do something, I said, yeah, the three of us would love to do it. They're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, my mom and my wife, well, we'd love to be there with you. My dad left planet Earth, may God rest his soul, kissing me on the cheek and telling me that I was a winner. My grandfather, JC, left planet Earth telling me how much he loved me. These are the gifts of a relationship with God.
Amen.
You want to settle for sober? Fine. Okay. I want to settle for a life beyond my wildest dreams. Thank you guys. God bless you.